Welcome, everybody. All right, welcome. And I guess first item up on the agenda is just the reading
the record
of the
button.
minutes. Anyone have any comments on the minutes from last month's meeting?
No.
Yes, Peggy?
I think the wording, when talking about the parking issue, I think Westmount is working with it as opposed to is still promising to work with it. Sounds a bit more negative than the situation. It'd be good to modify the wording there, the tone.
What are you suggesting?
I would say the problem with the parking problem that Westmount is working to solve.
Okay,
Because I don't think I think, you know, they have been working with it, not just promising to work with it. They have actually been working with it with the residents. So the implication is that they're not doing anything yet, and they have been
well,
doing it.
they haven't issued parking stickers yet, but we'll just say they're working on it. That's fine. That sounds
Right.
better.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I'll change that.
Any other
Thank you.
comments? If not, then motion to approve the minutes. Mike moves. Second. Thank
I'll
you. Peggy.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very well, so the minutes are passed. Thank you. All right, so we'll do a call for public comment, and we'll sort of go around the horn on our tenants and ask you to keep it to about 2 minutes, just so if we can keep this meeting moving along. Louise, why don't we start with you?
Okay, thank you. A couple of things, new things that actually have come up recently for some reason, which I don't understand. I've been referring people to the office because I'm getting phone calls and also emails on the tenant email about maintenance issues. So I have referred them back to the office, obviously. I don't know why they're calling me, but they're notifying me about maintenance things. So I've forwarded things to the office. The other thing is apparently I got a call that there are some diseased plants down in Mill, right at the corner of Lakeview Avenue there, right on the corner, that there are some plants that are diseased. I think that also was brought to Gunner's attention. I got a call about concern about sprinklers dropping in the units. I don't know exactly what that means, but they're telling me that, you know, they're like, I guess, coming down from the ceiling. I assume that's what it means. The other thing is I've gotten several phone calls about preventive maintenance. So that's something that's been a long-term problem that I think we really need to address, because things are breaking down, and I got a call today about pest control and that kind of thing. So I always refer people back to the office. I actually even got a call from someone at Canaan Parish with a question, and again, I referred them back to the office. And then the other thing is, you know, we already discussed parking. The other thing is the status of the generators. So if you all could just give me some updates on any or all of those issues, that'd be great.
So real quickly, first off, do we know, do we think people are calling Louise just as sort of like tenant representative and that helps, or have we accidentally like included her number someplace that it shouldn't be included?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Louise, I don't know if you have any insight as to why they're calling you, or is it just because
No, I
you're-
I don't think I don't know the reason.
Yep.
Again, people give out my phone number. You know, they say, oh, you got this problem? Oh, call Louise. That's what I think it is. I think it's just a word of mouth thing. I don't think it's any more than that. And as I said, I just refer them back to the office. Someone called me the other day. I have no water in my apartment. I said, well, I can't help you with that. You need to contact the office. I mean, come on now. Somebody called me about ants. Somebody called me about, actually sent me a list, which I forwarded to Amy and Anna, about all the things that she needs in her apartment.
I think
So I
that's
always refer back to the office.
yeah, I think that sounds to me that residents need to get re-informed with who to contact when and how. So that might be just a general notice of to go out. I'll stop there. There's something else I want to say, but we can talk about it later in the Westmount section.
Okay. I don't know if we have any other, so hitting Louise's list real quickly. Do we have a system for tracking our preventative maintenance?
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
I was just going to say, yes, the best way to do it is the simple way, which is effectively a wall calendar that's that's in the property manager's office saying, okay, these are the dates where we do filter replacements and so on. So there's no fancy or technologically advanced way to track the preventative maintenance. It's really simplest just doing it on a wall calendar. And so that's what we've been trying to put together as we're compiling all the things that require preventative maintenance. We're adding them to the calendar.
And I have a list. I also have a list too that we were working off of. That's like, as to Rick's point, that we're cultivating as a result of getting our hands and learning the systems and where, what needs our attention. So it's a work in progress in terms of who, what, why, when.
Well, I think if I could make a request under board side of things, if we could go ahead and develop some sort of a tracking system for preventive maintenance inside of an apartment that just is sort of like a checklist. So if we're going to go ahead and change all of the, check all of the filters, how do we know that somebody went to each of the apartments and actually got into each of the apartments and actually had the right filters and actually changed them? So some sort of a checklist system that just verifies that we did whatever that preventative maintenance is.
We could create logbooks.
Yes. And again,
the other,
nothing too sophisticated, just something again that makes sure we don't miss something.
yeah, for instance, the gas furnaces, I don't think have ever been cleaned or serviced. The air conditioning units, have not really been serviced or looked at, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. The bigger stuff, not just changing the filters, but the bigger stuff.
And we know,
like the furnaces and the air conditioning units and that kind of thing.
and we know that prior management absolutely positively didn't. And so we have to go ahead and establish a little bit more credibility, which falls on Westmount's shoulder a little bit, but that also helps to back us up. And when somebody says it's never been done, and we can say, no, absolutely, on September 12th at 2:45, this service was done or something like that. So,
right.
Okay.
I mean, one of the things to consider when putting that together, I mean, you have the standard obvious ones, filter changes, battery changes, commissioning and decommissioning the sprinkler system. Those are all the basic obvious ones. The thing that I think we need to consider is if we're going to do an annual or biannual maintenance or review of HVAC systems, that's going to be a big bill twice a year. And I guess the question that I would ask is it worth spending what will easily be, over $10,000, if not more, on a maintenance guy going from unit to unit to every apartment to look at it and verify, is it what we expect or not what we expect, or is it better to repair them as it comes? It's just I just put it out there to do a preventative maintenance plan of an HVAC system outside of a filter change is a big number. And so it's something to just consider.
I want to
No,
respond to that, Rick, if I may.
Yeah,
It may sound like a big number if you do it once a year. It's not just the filters. They check the condensers and they clean out the furnace, the air circulator. If you do it once a year, you don't have to wait until you have to do individual units and then have to replace the air condenser. That becomes more expensive. You have to place 6 air condensers, and that way you may not have to. It's a lot. Preventive maintenance saves money in the long run.
Well, I would,
And we, in the past, not the last property manager, because they would, most of their time here was during the pandemic. But in the past, we've always had an HVAC company that was under contract. They came once a year. They went to each unit, checked the furnaces, checked the outside, put Freon in if necessary. And that was it. And it ended up being less of expense in the long run. I mean, that has to do with property management. I mean,
well,
maintenance.
I would say that what we're looking for is probably guidance from Westmount as to what makes sense, because we're not obviously spending money on preventative maintenance that doesn't actually, that only will catch 0.001% is not worthwhile. Spending money on something that is likely to catch something before we get premature failure and save us from emergency charges, that's more likely. But like, I have no idea as to what the possible, what's entailed under preventive maintenance of the HVAC systems, and again, whether or not that should be semi-annual or annual, besides for the filters.
yeah. I mean, what I think about is filter changes are obvious. That's something we can do
Yep.
in-house. When you talk about condensers, typically, if you're going to service it, what you're going to do is clean the condenser, and that really isn't something that you need to do every single year, in my opinion, because you're probably going to spend $1,000, maybe somewhere between $500 and $1,000 a unit cleaning condensers and doing a once over. So, it's going to add up quickly. So maybe we would go on a plan of every 2 years or something. You clean the condenser and you rotate around the property.
Yeah, but that hasn't been done in 2 years because of the pandemic. My recommendation is get some proposals and let's decide based on the proposals, see how much it costs.
Well, and I think you guys, you guys make a proposal to us as to what kind of makes sense under this. And this gets back a little bit toward the logbook, so that, if we do, I'm making up a number, but if we did 20 of them a year, or let's say we did 50 a year or something, and we did 40 a year. So every 3 years we get to something, we know which ones have been done, we document we did them. And, if a tenant has a question, we know, and, if stuff breaks, we know whether or not we've serviced it or not serviced it, just that sort of information.
Got it. Okay, yeah, we'll reach out to some of our providers and ask them for kind of a best practices suggestion as well as pricing.
And again, we're very sensitive that, we can't, we can't overly service the stuff because we can't afford it, but we also probably can't afford to mess up and not service it. So somewhere in there, hopefully we'll find a sweet spot.
Right.
And we don't have to do the entire property all at once. You can take the separate units in the complex, like phase 1, phase 2, mill, do them separately, but get some pricing and then let's make a decision.
Yeah, we'll do.
And then what do we have is, again, I saw an email like throughout the last month or so under just some pest control, and I know that we have sort of a pest control process. How do we handle general extermination, and what's our plan these days, and what are we doing?
That we have contracted, and I believe it rotates through the property on a monthly basis. Is that right, Amy?
We have it.
I think
It's quarterly.
Quarterly basis.
It's
Thank
quarterly
you.
basis. Our next extermination is going to be on the 13th and the 14th of September.
Okay. And did we work out the sprinklers for make sure the sprinklers that we're in compliance with the drought, and that we don't have any, we aren't watering too much parking lot or having dribbles?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
we're under the 2-day-a-week restriction. So yes, and anything that was broken with the sprinkler system was repaired.
Super. And how about under plantings? Do we have again, sort of a review fall and spring or something of how the plants are doing, the trees, and seeing whether that stuff's alive or needs to be cut or treated or anything?
Yeah, the landscaping company, is contracted to do pruning and cleaning both, spring, summer, and fall throughout the course of the season. So what we'll do this fall is, as they're going through the property doing fall cleaning, we'll take a look at anything that's dead that needs to be replaced, and get some quotes to replace, what's needed. It's something obviously that we don't want to do in July and August. You'd be wasting your time and money.
Yeah, they provided us a proposal for some of the services too, and it seemed a little bit cuckoo. So we challenged them on that a little bit.
And this year also, we may have to make a choice that, we're already hearing from our landscape architects and landscapers that, the plantings are not good this year, not surprisingly with this drought. And
Yeah.
so, I'd be reluctant to replace plants this fall. One or two small ones maybe, but they're probably going to end up having to be spring replacements, if we have to replace anything.
Right. Yeah, so that's something that we'll look at, as weather permits us to actually do something is when we'll make that decision.
Right. All right.
Is there any update on the generators?
Well, we voted last meeting to select a contractor. We didn't we?
I think you did, yeah.
Yeah, we actually chose Super K. And now it's a matter of getting the generators, and that's going to take a while.
All right,
Okay,
so I think we probably hit that during Westmount update. All right, did we hit Louise's list?
yes, you did.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. And for other folks on the line, if Louise brought up an issue and that was your issue, then if you really need a clarification, please bring it up. But otherwise, it would be great if we could just keep moving on. Okay, so Jim, I think you were actually first one on. Any comments for this week?
Well, I think it's been brought up in your discussion just now. So probably nothing more.
Okay, super. Thank you. Melissa?
You muted, Melissa.
If you're speaking. All right, we'll come back to Melissa. Oh, there she is. Melissa, any comments?
Been disconnected for a little bit, so I just want to hear what's going on within the property.
Sure. Okay. Cindy, any comments?
Oh, no, I'm good, Scott. It took about, a good amount of time for Gunnar to finally figure out what was wrong with my AC, but he did, and I thank him for his tenacity, and Amy for staying on top of it.
Thank you. Wendy, any comments?
Yes. Yay for for the irrigation system. It was so exciting to see water storming down the storm drain on a rainy day and not down the driveway for months, for the month. So that it's much better, and the 2 days is better. And you touched on something about scheduling, which I was going to mention, and so that sounds like that's in the works. And then another, part of the thing with the maintenance of the furnaces and water heaters and things that was brought up. My apartment in the Mill Apartments and probably the 1-bedrooms, there's a lot of issues that they probably haven't been serviced in 4 or 5 years, possibly, because of how they were blocked up. So there was really no comfortable way for any service person to come in there without tearing everything apart. So it's been certainly more than the pandemic for that to have happened. And then just the big maintenance thing is I was curious because I'm wondering whether, because this is a private property, whether storm drains on the property and or sewer lines on the property could be a maintenance thing. And I just totally don't know about that, but the town probably has contractors that they deal with that, since there are so many humans on this property using the sewer lines, that would be a preventative thing, possibly, and the town might be able to help with that.
Well, I believe in general, sewer lines typically don't require anything until something happens. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of preventative, or it's on a very long-term basis. Storm drains, again, they do require some maintenance. And do we have anyone check those out every once in a while, or?
We used to, so Westmount came on board. They were during the pandemic, they didn't, but I suggested it a few times and nothing has happened. There's a company we've used in the past called VAC One. They just come, we don't have that many storm drains, and they pump it out and clean it, and that's it.
So for Westmount, do you know whether or not we have anything on the books on that, or is it we just don't know if we have it, and if we don't, then can we go ahead and sort of look into it? And if we do, great. You know when it's planned for?
But we do not. We'll have to give them a call.
Okay.
And I do recall us talking about that, Bernie. Sorry, I didn't follow up on that.
Well, other things happened before that, so I understand. I want to respond to Wendy about furnaces at Mill. The furnaces at Mill are much less than a year old. When they put the new furnaces in, when they converted to gas, they also checked out the condensers, and everything was fine. The only thing that may happen, and that'll happen when they do the whole property, is changing the filter. As far as the furnaces at Mill, they're quite good. And some of the other areas, Millport 1 and 2, they may be a few years old. That's a different story. So we're okay at Mill, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
Okay.
And just one more thing, even though Jim, you brought up the subject of the plantings and stuff, but if plantings are done, there's to somehow get water. I mean, if you're going to replant anything, to be prepared to really water them in the spring, because there is no water other than a tenant watering themselves. So that's another thing to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly, if we're going to do any replantings, obviously we need to have some sort of a watering plan to keep them alive.
Yeah.
We'll just watch
because
that. Okay.
Yeah, because Gregory planted up by 59 and 61, I think last fall or the fall before or something, and did nothing really, and then they died. So anyway, that's my 2 minutes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sorry, was there anyone else, or did I miss anyone, or are we good for tenants? Okay. Thank you everyone for your comments and for participating. Why don't we move on to reports of the committee and staff. So Westmount, to you.
Okay, I'll start with the financials. I sent them out by email. Hopefully you had an opportunity to take a look at them. You'll notice that we've stayed relatively steady month to month in terms of our expenses. As projected and predicted, our maintenance expenses were higher than we had budgeted, and that was getting all of the units turned over that were vacant. We're pretty much done with that now, and we're dealing with, Amy and Anna have done a terrific job clearing out a lot of the vacancy, and now we're just dealing with turnovers more so than actually backfilling vacancy. So hopefully we'll see some of those expenses slow down a little bit. Otherwise, everything else is relatively close to budget, and our cash position at all three properties, if you will, remains fairly stable and same month to month. So I would say from a financial perspective, everything is kind of as predicted, and no surprises. And then hopefully we'll start to see it shift a little bit with fewer expenses going forward and a little more income coming in because of the reduced vacancy. If anybody has any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any comments from the board?
No,
All right.
All right, Amy, will you run through your current vacancy position and some of the highlights of your report?
Yes, sure, not a problem. One minute there. Alrighty, okay, so, vacancies. Okay, we currently, finished doing the repairs in 111, and we should have some moving by the 15th. 4C, we're just waiting on a Section 8 inspection on that 2-bedroom. 324 was a quick turnover. Move out was moved in by the 1st. Moved out on 20-something and was in by the 1st. The 328 2-bedroom, that particular apartment has a lot of work. We're trying to get it done by the 15th. Apartment 311, the keys were given on the 26th. We're trying to get that already by the 15th as well, and that's going to be a transfer tenant.
So hey, Amy,
yeah.
Can I just interrupt you for a sec? So just for, big picture perspective, 4C and 111, you've got the tenants lined up, and it's documentation and Section 8 inspection are what's left. So effectively, we're down to 2 vacants, which are recent departures from the property, correct?
That's correct. That is correct. And we already moved one in already.
so there's only one vacancy, and where is the vacancy? Millport?
Two
Yeah.
vacancies we're down to.
Yeah, just two more, that's it. But the one is actually a transfer for a tenant transferring from a smaller unit into a larger unit. So in actuality, we only have one vacancy that has a lot of work to be done in it, which is 328. Which is
328, so that's a 2-bedroom, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's a HUD Section 8, so they would have
Right,
to.
that's a Brad apartment, 2-bedroom,
correct.
Millport. And what about Mill? No vacancies in Mill, right?
No, the only one Mill is 4C, but like I said, it's already assigned, and we're just waiting.
It's fine, I know, you're just waiting for the approval, so that's
Yeah.
not considered a vacancy.
Okay.
Unless
sorry.
that person's not approved, then it's a vacancy. So
Yeah.
Mill is all no vacancies and just one vacancy in Millport. That's great.
That's it, yes. We're on a roll.
Very good roll.
Yeah, okay, and then for those water heaters at Mill, we're gonna do the doors on this week, next week coming on the 14th, Wednesday, we're gonna start that. It might take 2 days. We're thinking because it's 22 apartments, just in case. Those notices have gone out already. And we're just waiting on basically Tiger Man and the lighting still. He was working on it. He gave us a call. He was outside canvassing the area as well in the evening. The parking, that's in process. I'm just waiting to see if we're going to be doing the letters first, just to have the letters in place and giving out the numbers. Or are we gonna wait to get repavement and then lined? That's another thing. So that's.
Yeah, so let me jump in here because I'd like to get the board's opinion on this. As you know, we've been talking for a while about potentially re-asphalting the parking lots. But at the same time, a lot of the striping and numbering has worn off. And so the question has been, is it worth spending the money to stripe and renumber the spaces now if the anticipation is that we're going to repave in the near future? And so, striping and numbering is not an expensive thing necessarily, but I also don't want to spend money frivolously. So I'd like to get your opinion on that.
It's Louise, if I could just make a suggestion. In the past, because we haven't had the driveway paved in quite some time, I know that Manny just got a stencil and spray painted the numbers on each spot, which would be less expensive way to get the spaces marked versus waiting for the paving. As the apartments are filling up, obviously the parking's becoming more and more difficult. And there are some people on the property, I think Amy will confirm, that park 2 and 3 cars. So I think the sooner we can address that, probably the better for everyone.
Yeah, I'd like to address something that Rick just said. I agree with Rick that it doesn't pay to go to too much expense. If we get any paving done, we'd have to get it done before the middle of December when it's hard to get the asphalt. But we still need to assign spots to people. And for some reason, they assigned a bunch of visitor spots near the office building. We used to just have visitor spots across the street. And some people that have more than one car have been parking there, so they're not visitors. So we have to identify people parking on the property, and we have to be able to assign it. And I'll be happy to do a walkthrough with Amy and show her how we've done it in the past, and it seemed to have worked out. So I'll be glad to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
When, you know, all other things being equal, when would we want to do the paving? And would we want to do it now, or do we have substantive additional work that would mean we ought to do it in the spring?
We may not be able to do it now. I know Niall has been trying to find someone and has had difficulties.
Yeah, I mean, it's likely it's booked out already for this paving season, but I mean, right at this point, it's finding somebody that will do it is our holdup. Is that correct? At a reasonable price?
I guess that's what it is. That's what Niall said.
Yeah.
Okay, then I think the stenciling would be a great interim process. And again, I don't know if we have a shot at doing the parking lot this winter, but we're almost at that point again where it's not worth doing at this point. If we got to wait 2 months in order to do it. And with the price of oil, odds are, well, I'm not a commodity speculator. These things are cheaper than, but I mean, actually, who knows where it's going to be? So that doesn't even matter. We just got to deal with the reality.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, my opinion would be stenciling and put off the asphalt. It's not unserviceable, you know, it's not like it's a problem from a driving perspective, and maybe even redirect some of that money if we need to do some more extensive landscaping this fall, use it for those purposes rather than repaving this year.
Yep. Any other comments?
Will Millport be affected at all by the line going down Lakeview? Nothing.
Should not be.
Okay. Because that's going to be a big project coming up next year, but I would say, you know, get somebody lined up for next year, but go ahead and paint the lines on because you're going to need it for the winter. And they'll be faded by the summer anyway, after by this plow.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so unless there's any other comments, let's get somebody on the hook now for best we can for a May, June type paving. I mean, you can go as early as April, but probably May, June is the right timing, and let's see what we can do to get ready for that.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
Right. I'll get them stenciling done.
thank you, and nice job again filling stuff up. That's humongous. Big help.
All right, Amy, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Anything else you want to report on?
No, pretty much that was one of my things. I was there with the parking. So this for what I will do is I will follow up with Gunnar and Geo and have them start stenciling. So this way I could start doing whatever I need to do and getting current and more up-to-date documentation from the tenants for their vehicles. Other than that, I spoke with Gunnar in regards to getting the section of the gate, the end of the building of 33, from like a Home Depot. He said he don't think that he would be able to do that. So we probably have to have someone else come out and just.
Yeah, I think the better, so what we're talking about is to the right of building 33, there's an area where tenants cut across the grass and walk down the retaining wall. And we'd like to put a fence up there to stop that practice. And I think we'd be better off, Amy, if we go with a fence company because it faces the street. We want something more decorative there. So I
Okay,
think-
I'll get some quotes then.
Yeah,
Not a problem. I'll get those quotes out this week coming.
thank you.
No problem. And then the other thing was, we were trying to figure the lighting. Did we get any call back from Eversource on assistance with that?
No, sorry, and that's despite my phone calls and emails. So I'm gonna see if there's somebody else above the person that I'm supposed to be contacting to escalate it. I mean, I'm not really surprised that Eversource didn't get back to me, but regardless, I am going to just continue to escalate it until I can find somebody. The person that we would normally contact has moved away from that area and is now doing EV rebates, sending up EV charging station rebates.
Oh, wow. All right. And then lastly, we have the sprinkler inspections that were done. They're coming out to do sprinkler inspections this coming week also, as well as the fire department still hasn't answered me as to a date that they are going to be able to come out and do the new inspection when we have all the supplies and everything is done already. So we're pretty much on track. So if they would come, we have no problems.
What is the inspection the fire department's doing?
They're checking to make sure all the sprinklers are where they
Okay,
need to
right,
be
yes.
and the supplies that was missing previously because it was on back order. So now we have the supplies, everything's in place. I'm just waiting for them to come out and re-inspect.
Great.
Yep, so I think everything pretty much is in order. We're still continuing with our recertification process and renewing leases as well.
I have a question. Do we have a date on the power washing?
It was
Friday.
Yeah.
This coming
Friday.
Friday?
Yeah.
Tomorrow?
Yeah,
Or
they're
2 days?
starting Friday. They were supposed to start yesterday, but with the rain, they pushed to Friday.
Well, if the rain was strong enough, we wouldn't have needed them.
I know.
Now, Amy, my suggestion is that you let people know because somebody may have their windows open. Just
Okay,
tell people to keep the windows closed.
okay, I'll send that out tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and last thing that I wanted to mention is in terms of notifications, we're ready to launch Callmax finally. We've gotten a fairly comprehensive list. Amy and Ann have got a comprehensive list of tenants' contact information and preferences. So that information has been uploaded into the system. So we're going to start testing it, sending out test texts or calls or emails or combinations. And we'll be asking some of the residents like yourself, Bernie, and the others on the call, if you're receiving it and, making sure that we don't have any incorrect numbers, because what the system will do when we broadcast is it will tell us if a message failed for a particular tenant. So we're going to start doing those testings over the next week or two. We'll launch that.
So there'll also be phone calls made by it?
Yeah, so the way the system works is we can communicate with a pre-recorded phone call, text, or email. So depending on what contact information we have for the tenant, it will do one of the three. And or if a tenant specifies that they only want to be contacted by email, let's say, it will do, we will note that in the system. And so it will send an email to them only, not a call or a text.
Well, Anna will tell you, last week I had a big complaint from one of the tenants when we were doing the water heater repairs. And he got a written notification. We said that wasn't good enough. He wanted someone to call him. And we said, we can't do that.
Yeah, well, we're going to be able to. So what the system can do is we can write an email, let's say, and then we take the same text and we dump it into the phone call section, and the system will read the email as the automated phone call.
Okay, I'd be glad to try it out with you.
Yeah, it's pretty slick. So that we'll be starting the testing with that in the next, as I said, next week or so.
Hi, this is Wendy. I'm wondering if some sort of notice can be put out as to what the incoming phone number might be, because I guess a lot of people, getting texts there's so much garbage stuff, and if it's something like an 800 number or something that's coming from them,
It'll be
If-
the office number.
No, actually incoming to their phones, it's not our office number that shows up on the caller ID. There's a
Yeah,
couple
you-
different numbers, I think that.
But you can select it to
Okay.
be the office number.
Oh, okay, because I have a list of all the different phone numbers. If it's a text, if it's ba 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 ba,
Yeah.
it gives you a different phone number, and there's a form that we could print from Callmax, but we'll clarify everything as we near the launch of this.
yeah.
Yeah. So it
That,
should
yeah,
be the
that would,
office
that would just
number.
be good to give people a heads up to know the testing is going to happen, because there's just a few of us on the line now. But if more people knew, and then to be aware that this would happen and not to ignore whatever the call is.
Okay, Bernie,
Thanks.
James, Melissa, Cindy, Wendy, Louise, this is your official notice. You're gonna be our guinea pigs for our testing of the Callmax system.
Okay, but hopefully it will say Callmax, or we
Yeah,
need
we'll,
to.
we'll give you heads up for sure.
Thank you, and thank you for the heads up.
I think
because
that's
we're-
great because there's a few people that don't have email. And so you can still contact them using the phone system. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And it will work in the other direction too. When turned on, it will pick up phone calls coming into the office and direct them according to, what the caller says they're calling about, whether it be maintenance or application or appointment or whatever.
And it
So that means
provides.
Louise will get more calls now.
Yeah.
That's right.
Woo!
Louise, we're gonna say press 1 for Louise.
There you go. Add her.
No, but at least there's going to be a way that people, when they're sending in, let's just say a general maintenance request, it will dispatch a text, an email, a call to our team, and they can respond the other direction. So if somebody calls in and wants to notify that there is a situation in their unit, it's not an emergency, our team gets the call and they select the response, and it calls back the person to let them know that there's an acknowledgement that the work order has been received. So that direct, again, that lack of communication or lack of acknowledgement, not sure where things are going, all that will start to get quelled with the system too.
Perfect.
Okay. What other sort of new business do we have? Oh, sorry. I have a quick Canaan Parish update, which is actually kind of staff. I'm just mentioning we're still on track to go ahead and have complete the project and start occupancy sometime around the end of October, beginning of November, probably closer to the beginning of November. We're trying to go ahead and get the COs. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on with the 830G application, which is back in front of the state, and Hollister, of course, is up to his fun stuff of complaining about what we have filed. We'll see how that all ties together. Meanwhile, again, Canaan Parish is plugging along and looking pretty good. So encourage everyone to go up there and take a peek if you get a chance. Any questions on any of that? All right, any new business before we go to executive session? Seeing none, could I have a motion to go to executive session?
Aye.
We'll go Peggy, thank you for the motion, and Michael, thank you for seconding. All in favor?
Aye.
Mike, your drinking counts as favor. We appreciate that one. Super. So we'll go to executive session. Thank you to Tenants for checking in with us. We appreciate your participation as always. And at some point, we'll be getting back to